just like every other time, we are back, except this time we have a very special guest. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody, get everybody up to speed on, what you do, who you are, and just, everything they should know about you before we get going.
Okay. My name is Madiha Ahmad. I'm a registered dietitian. I currently work for Wellstar. I work as a dietitian over there. We are a long-term acute care facility which handles people who come in who are on vents and ventilators and trachs, and they need to be fed via the gut. So I am the dietitian there that handles the feeding through the gut, through the tube feeding, and through a formula which I calculate the patient's needs as far as the calories and the protein and everything that they need to get the nutrients that they need to recover. So that's what I do as a full-time job. I'm also a mom of 3 girls, so I have 2 full-time jobs. I have a master's degree in holistic nutrition. Actually, it's a master's degree in nutrition, but it's focused mainly on holistic nutrition, which is kind of different from what I do at Wellstar. But I try to incorporate both degrees into my counseling as well as my personal life.
Wow, that's crazy. So wow. Okay, so I know that's very relevant now, considering everyone's talking ventilators. A lot of people have been on them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you guys have to not you guys, you have to calculate what that patient needs and then feed it to them via the gut.
Right.
Wow. I'm sorry, that's crazy, because I always pictured a dietitian would be like more of a counselor, or what should I do? How should I change my diet to get these results? But you're literally keeping people alive.
Yeah, we give the nutrition that they need to get to the point where they are fine to get off that ventilator, then see a speech therapist and transition to oral diet. So we come into play in that very crucial time where they need the nutrition. So if we're not there to calculate the calories and the protein the fluids that they need, even to the extent of the water that goes through the tube feeding, we actually calculate how much water they need, so the nurse knows how much water to give to that patient. Now, in the times that are going around right now with COVID, these COVID patients, yeah, they're on ventilators, so they will need tube feeding, and the dietitians come into play here.
So I guess my first question that comes to mind is, let's say, for example, a person has a horrible diet and they end up in a situation, whether it's COVID, operation gone bad, whatever it is, where now they're on a ventilator. Is it an issue if they had a really poor diet and now you guys, like, is it okay to just start fresh and just completely change up a person's diet when they're in such like a critical state? Or do you almost want to continue to give them the sugar levels, the calories that their body's used to, even though that might not be the best thing for them, and then slowly work them back? Or what's the method behind it?
So the method is basically, if that patient comes in, that patient is in a critical condition. So being in a critical condition kind of increase, and being in a ventilated position, they're not moving. Their body is going to need more calories and more protein, so they don't lose their muscles don't lose that protein. So sometimes, depending on the situation of the patient, the needs kind of increase. So the dietitian looks at the whole thing overall, and she'll estimate the calories and the protein that way.
Wow.
So we're not technically looking at what the person ate before. We're looking at the current situation and that person being on that ventilator. Why is the patient on the ventilator? How long has the patient been on the ventilator? Does the patient have any wounds? Does the patient have any injuries brain injuries that we need to alter the tube feeding formula or find another tube feeding formula that fits to that patient? So we look at a bunch of things that will help the patient get better. So It's not more about what they were eating before. When it comes to diabetes and things like this, there are specific formulas that are catered to diabetics or renal patients. So we look at that as well. And then when the patient eventually transitions to an oral diet, if their eating prior to all this was not good, if they weren't aware how to control their blood sugars, or if they weren't aware how to control their potassium or sodium levels when they go through dialysis, we will come into the counseling mode where we come
Okay.
in, we counsel the patient accordingly.
Okay, so that brings up a really good point where people, it's not that they're walking around just devouring everything in front of them. They're just not aware. The education is out there, but it's not the importance of a good diet. At least for me, it wasn't stressed until honestly about like a year and a half ago when I got into watching a couple of documentaries. And just from talking to people in my daily life, I've, just kind of found that a lot of people aren't informed on what it means to have a proper diet. So just as like a rough draft, what would you say is some of the main points that people should focus on when they want to quote unquote have like an overall decent diet, not even a specialized diet, vegetarian, pescatarian, or keto diet, or any of those things, just the general things that people should know to stay away from or to limit that are, most of the time people have a misconception about.
I think that the most important thing is to stay away from fad diets. Second thing is not to look for easy quick fix. You're not looking for something. If you want to lose weight in 2 weeks, that's not going to be real weight loss. You have to look at a diet plan that's going to be long term. You have to think about a healthy eating plan that's going to benefit you overall. Is it going to benefit your cholesterol? It's going to benefit your sugar. It's going to benefit your overall body and decrease the inflammation in your body that you've caused by eating too much of this or eating too much of that. So moderation is another key point. You want to practice moderation. You don't want to go overboard on too many things. And another thing is whole grains. A lot of people should stay away or limit or keep the refined grains as kind of like a treat. But in your everyday diet overall, you should include whole grains like 100% whole wheat, oats, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of fresh things, and leave the other things for like kind of like an enjoyment rather than an everyday thing.
Okay. So you mentioned inflammation, and I think it's really interesting because a lot of the times, unless people are in direct pain, they're almost never aware of an issue going on in their body. And I've felt that issue a lot of times. I've had that problem, and then you need a little more water, or you need to start taking a vitamin, whatever the thing is. But when it comes to inflammation from a high fat diet, what kind of inflammation are we talking about specifically?
From a high fat diet, you're looking at things that are going to cause a high cholesterol, which
Okay.
then is going to cause inflammation in your body because that's just too much of something you don't need. So your body's going to have that inflammatory response.
Okay. And then that's when you start having like, not organ failure, but you start having like fatty acids and blood clots and those kind of things.
Blood clots, yeah, that cause heart disease and things like that.
Wow. Okay. So I know that unfortunately, due to this coronavirus, this COVID-19 epidemic, people are starting to become more aware about not only their diet and their intake, but, just their health in general. And, through just having a lot more downtime, I've been doing a lot of research. And one of the main things that I came across was just a lot of people trying to stress the fact that, believe it or not, there's a lot of issues with the meat that a lot of people are consuming. Not that meat itself is an issue, but that factory farming and the pharmaceutical industry to meet the demand of the people has caused for the quality of the meat to decline. How do you feel about like meat consumption?
I think meat is an important part of protein in the diet. I don't think that it should be completely eliminated, but I think that limitation is the key because of what you just said. Like we have a lot of issues where, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of documentaries as well, where they focus on the cows being fed corn when they should be eating grass, when the chickens are being fed corn when they should not be eating corn, when the fish in the farms are being fed corn and fish cannot digest corn. So yes, there's a lot of things going on that should not be going on just because they can mass produce. It's cheaper for the corn. It's cheaper to feed the cows corn. They get fatter quicker. They're ready to cut quicker. So it's all about mass production. So this is what's going on in our farm. But I'm not advocating completely becoming vegetarian or becoming completely vegan or anything like that. I think that protein is essential. We need protein in our body. It gets the amino acids that we need to keep our body going. So I don't think that we should eliminate it completely, but I think moderation is definitely a key here, which a lot of people tend to not understand. It's either all or nothing. There's no like in between, which I think is a key in our diet.
Okay, so for a vegetarian or just somebody who doesn't eat meat,
yeah,
it's primarily the protein they're missing out on. That's like
no, they're missing B vitamins is a big thing in our meats. Meat has a lot of essential B vitamins, but then again, and then I'm not saying that being vegetarian is bad. You can take a multivitamin, you can compensate. You can definitely compensate for that. And there are plant-based foods that have protein, but I mean, obviously you're not going to get the same amount of protein in the 3 ounces of chicken. That's your portion size. In 3 ounces of chicken, than you're going to get in a 1 cup of kale. It's not going to be the same protein. There's going to be some protein in some vegetables, but not as much as you find in the actual animal protein.
Okay, so I think it's funny because you mentioned something I was going to get to later, but now that we're on it, vitamins specifically, I take a multivitamin, and I like to take zinc or echinacea, whichever one, just to help with the immune health. But I also like to take iron because I have low iron and I get headaches if I don't. But as far as being a vegetarian or just not having a high meat intake, do you think that vitamins are a sustainable way to replace natural like that's actually a weird way of wording it. Do you think that a person can sustain themselves by taking vitamins opposed to just eating the food sources that have the vitamins? Like, do you think that's an equal trade-off, or do you think that you're kind of losing something when you're just taking the pills?
I mean, if you're deficient, then I think taking a vitamin is beneficial for you. I don't think it harms anything. I think everybody should take a multivitamin because you don't know if your diet's like 100% clean. You don't know what you're missing. So I think a multivitamin, I think everybody should take. I think it's what multivitamin you're taking, you should watch out for. Always look at the ingredients. Always look out for, in the back of the multivitamin bottle, you'll see it'll say 100% ADA, 100% RDA, meets 100% recommended daily allowance, or meets 50% recommended daily allowance. So if you're looking at a vitamin bottle and the vitamin A says 200% recommended dietary allowance, I would not take that vitamin because it's going too much over what you should be getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and vitamin A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble vitamins, so those are the ones that you need to really watch out for when you're buying a vitamin, because you do not want to go over that 100% meeting that recommended dietary allowance.
So what would happen if you did? Does it not just pass? Like what negative side effects would that have?
It gets stored in your liver. So the vitamins that are water soluble, which are mainly the B vitamins, they get excreted. So we're not so worried about an overdose in those, but the fat soluble ones do get stored in your liver. So you want to be careful on how much extra you take. A regular multivitamin is not harmful.
Okay, so what vitamins would you stress to a person who doesn't take any? What are the main important ones that we all kind of generally lack? Because I know one of them is vitamin D. I was listening to a different podcast and they were talking about, sun exposure, lifestyles. A lot more people aren't outside. But aside from vitamin D, what are some of the main vitamins that you guys see that people are lacking?
Really, it just depends on the person. This depends on the person's diet. You know, if the person is not drinking milk, I would say you probably need to take a calcium supplement, especially if you're a woman. You're more prone to osteoporosis, so calcium. We are seeing a lot of women now that are magnesium deficient. I myself was magnesium deficient and was having heart palpitations. And funny story, I was in my master's program and I didn't know that one of the key signs of magnesium deficiency is heart palpitations. So I went to the heart cardiologist. They did a full heart ultrasound, everything. She said, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong." Wore a little heart monitor for like a week to monitor the palpitations. Was sitting through one of my classes and saw in the notes, magnesium deficiency, heart palpitation. Started taking 200 milligrams of magnesium every night. Have not had a heart palpitation in years.
Wow.
So it just depends on the person. Like it just depends on your diet and what you're lacking and what you think you're lacking. If you're going through a lot of gut issues, then I would definitely think about taking a multivitamin, because then it kind of interferes with that absorption, that most of the vitamins are absorbed in the intestine.
Okay, so heart palpitations meaning like irregular beats?
Yeah, like irregular heartbeats, like your
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So that can be fixed with magnesium. That's crazy. See, it's those kind of things that I love, because that's not what people are taught. It's the sad part. It kind of segues into what I want to get into next, where people are just kind of walking around with a bunch of issues, and then they go see a doctor and they get, prescribed a regimen of pills, whatever it is. And then they just kind of get used to just pushing these issues off, taking, pharmaceutical drugs, which there's nothing wrong with if you need them. But a lot of the times it's things like you said, you're missing a vitamin, or you need to just change up your diet. So do you think that not necessarily society, but just kind of schooling and just the Western culture that we have here in the USA, do you think that it kind of doesn't emphasize the importance of a diet? Like, I just feel like everyone gets pushed towards pharmaceutical pills. Oh, we got to try these pills or try this cream but no one's ever talking about, well, what are you eating? What's going in your body? Do you think that's a big issue? People like
Well,
what's the word?
because I think everybody's looking for an easy way out, you know? Like, just give me the metformin, I'll take it. I don't want to go on a diet. I don't want to exercise. And then once in a while, you'll come along with a patient that will say, "No, I don't want to be on medication. Tell me what I need to do." And then the doctor should refer and can refer to a dietitian. There are dietitians that do diabetes counseling. So if somebody's diabetic and comes in and says, "No, I want to know what I should eat," and then right then and there, the doctor should refer them to a dietitian so they know exactly what to do, so they don't have to be on that medication. Yeah, and it's hard because it's like everybody's looking for the quick fix, and then you have the money makers, which are the drugs. So there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's not necessarily implied, but everyone kind of gets pushed down that road, is what I've seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So I know that, obesity is kind of relevant right now, because
Mm-hmm.
I read something about in New York, a majority of, I think it was like 81%. I don't want to be quoted, but whatever it is, majority of the people that did end up dying, unfortunately, of COVID-19 were obese. And I mean, yeah, it's an obvious thing, but do you think that that's just kind of a general thing, that any flu will attack obese people opposed to people that are more healthy? Or do you just think that this is a COVID thing?
It just depends on the person's lifestyle. Like, I mean, just because the person is obese doesn't mean that person wasn't taking a probiotic and wasn't taking emergency or taking something or a vitamin to protect themselves from getting sick. Um, it just depends like what that lifestyle that person was leading. Did the person who was obese have diabetes? Did they have something else that was um, causing some kind of organ issue that already put them at risk when that virus came in? Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I don't think it's obesity per se. I think it's I think it's the things that come along with obesity. So heart disease, diabetes, renal failure, things like that. I don't think that they should stamp the COVID saying that, obese people are more at risk. It's people with underlying medical issues that are more at risk because what this virus does to attack our body. And then if you're already in some kind of fragile state, then it's going to affect you more than it is going to affect somebody else.
Okay, so I see what you're saying.
So
okay.
I don't think it's diet. I don't think that, obviously, if you eat healthy and you're getting all the antioxidants you need and things that you need, you will be less prone to get sick than somebody else that's not. But the immune system takes a while to build up. So if you've always had a bad immune system, even though you've been an okay eater and following a good diet, you're still going to get sick because that immune system hasn't built up. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's not like a light switch. It takes time.
Yeah.
Okay, so see, it's crazy because the COVID thing kind of came out of nowhere, and then now people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should try to improve my health. It sucks that it takes something like this, but I'm glad that people are coming to the realization. Especially that the fact that people are trying to, try a bunch of different diets. But, on that note, speaking of diets, like one of the main diets I always hear about is a keto diet, but I never know what people are talking about when they talk about a keto diet. So what exactly is a keto diet?
So keto diet eliminates all carbs. It's a completely high fat diet. Now the whole purpose is for our body to get into the mode where we're not burning carbs anymore, but we're burning fat to get to that weight loss. I personally don't agree with it, but it's worked for a lot of people. But our body needs carbohydrates to function because that carbohydrate breaks down into glucose, which gives our brain that necessity to function. So I think that carbohydrates are important. Now, whether you eat the wrong carbohydrates and the right carbohydrates, that's what should be focused on, not eliminating it completely. So keto diet is complete, like high fat meats, high fat cheeses, lots of salads and vegetables and things like that. But we know that it helps people lose weight if they're on it like a long term. It's just when they get off of it and then they start eating the regular things back again, the weight will come back on because it's not a healthy lifestyle. It's a quick fix.
Okay, so you're really not even losing weight. You're kind of just taking out a main contributor to your energy source.
Yeah.
Surviving on what you have.
Like I said, if you're on it long term, then people see results with weight loss, but they need to follow a healthy diet after that, or a healthy lifestyle after that. They can't go back to eating what they were eating before getting on keto because it's just a yo-yo effect. It's just like you're going to get on keto, you're going to lose what you want to lose for that 2-3 weeks, and then you're going to start eating again, and then it's all going to come back.
Is that healthy for the body to just dump and take? It's not. That's right. Yeah.
No.
So okay.
Because the high fats, like I said, the high fats cause high cholesterol. So you might look skinny from the outside. Your face might look skinny. You might look awesome, you think, but what's going on with your blood work? Like what's going on in the inside? What did you do to yourself after eating all those high fat foods?
And that's the stuff people don't want to think about. They just want to look good and screw the rest. Wow. See, another one that I always hear about is I think it's called intermittent or intermediate or fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah. So is that actually something that a person can do, or is that kind of depriving yourself? Is that kind of like starving yourself?
I've heard a lot about it. So I did a little experiment on myself for like 3 weeks, and I tried it. I actually gained weight.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So basically you're skipping breakfast. Why? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You shouldn't skip breakfast. I agree to some point that if you're not hungry in the morning, don't eat right away. Drink some water, wait till the hunger kicks in and eat. But don't skip breakfast. Like, don't wait until 1 p.m. to eat. It just makes you more ravenous. It makes you more hungry. It makes you want to grab the wrong things. You're not going to eat healthy, and you're going to eat twice as much.
Huh. Okay. So it's all, yeah, because usually what I would hear is you're not supposed to eat after a certain time at night, because if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, it just gets stored as fat.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what time you eat at night. It's what you've eaten the rest of the day. A lot of people have this misconception that, like, if I eat after 6 p.m., I'm going to gain weight. No, what did you eat before that? Like, did you have McDonald's for lunch? Did you have a 500-calorie drink from Starbucks at 4 p.m.? Did you have Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast? Okay, now have you already met your calorie needs? If you've already met your calorie needs, say you ate 1,800 calories by the time it was 5 p.m. Then you have dinner, and then your dinner piles on another 1,000 calories. It takes 3,500 calories equals a pound. So if you continue to eat like you're doing during the day, and then you eat after 6 p.m. and you have like 500, 600 calories on top of what you ate during the day, yeah, you're going to gain weight. But say people's lifestyle doesn't let them have that dinner at 6. They need to eat, they come home, they make dinner for their kids. By the time they eat, it's like 7 or 8 p.m. But they have practiced a good diet all day, and they haven't met their calorie needs. So they're going to eat a good dinner, and then they're going to go to bed. So they're not going to gain weight because they haven't surpassed what their body needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So it's not about eating after 6 p.m. It's how much are you going to eat after 6 p.m.? Are you going to have a big bowl of chicken Alfredo from Olive Garden, which is like 2,000 calories? Yeah, that's going to make you gain weight.
I think exactly what you just said is a lot of the issues that we see with diet and with health in general is that people want to have a one thing goes, or I don't eat after 6 p.m. or I don't do this, but it's more than that. It's calorie counts. And I wasn't aware of that until, like, I'll give you a quick background about my diet, right? I struggled probably about my whole life until about like 2.5 years ago, when I realized I had a problem with gluten. I had like gluten intolerance, whatever it's called. And I was just always in pain when I'd be done eating, no matter what it was. And then I just kind of accepted it. I thought it was normal. And then it got to the point where I realized, things aren't normal. Something's going wrong. I started to track what I was eating. That's what the doctor said, make a list, what hurts your stomach, what doesn't. And it really kind of just narrowed it down to lactose and gluten. So I cut both of those out of my diet, and I've been doing great. But one thing I always realized is, through doing research, gluten isn't something like natural from my understanding. So do I have like a deficiency, or like what's going on with the gluten thing? Like, why
Okay.
does my body reject
So,
gluten?
so I have that problem too.
Wow. Okay.
I am
Perfect.
gluten intolerant as well. Gluten is a protein that is found in wheat. Okay. I think a lot of people are having issues with wheat nowadays because our wheat is being sprayed with Roundup. Our wheat is being grown not naturally like it used to 100 years ago. So a lot of people are having this allergy to the wheat, and it is affecting their gut. Now, not a lot of people can tolerate it, maybe because they don't eat much of it. But if you eat a lot of bread, or if you eat a lot of wheat products during the day, then you might notice it more than somebody else who does. But this is the problem with wheat that's going on, I believe.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's chemicals.
It's just something that our body can't process these chemicals, and then that creates the inflammation in our gut, and that creates all these symptoms that we're getting. stomach pain, headache. I used to get a lot of irritability and moodiness if I had it, you know? And my favorite was like the Dunkin' Donuts, like whole wheat bagel. And I would have it, but I only have half of it, you know, because a whole one is full of calories. So immediately, an hour later, irritability, confusion, like not confusion, but bloating and being like just like uncomfortable. Another big trigger is Chinese food and Japanese food. And a lot of people don't know that. Soy sauce has wheat in it.
Wow.
And that was another trigger for me. So yeah, I think it's just the process.
Okay, so wow.
And the things that they add into the bread, because they have to, what they do to the bread when they make it, they strip the wheat with the vital nutrients that it has to make the bread, to have the bread be shelf stable. So they have to strip these things, and they have to add back certain vitamins because they've taken out a component of the wheat that has the vitamins that we need. So now they're going to fortify the bread. Now, fortification is not natural. You're fortifying the bread with vitamins that are chemically made. The natural wheat is gone now, you know?
So it's like a filler.
Yeah.
Wow. So do we have a problem, or is that the issue? That's what I always wonder. Like, do I have an actual problem with gluten, or is it the fact that all this manipulation is happening to the product?
The only way that you can find out if you have an actual gluten or if there's something called celiac disease and that you cannot tolerate it at all, is if you get a blood test. I don't know if your doctor offered you that, but if you get a blood test, they can check if you have celiac disease, which means that you're completely allergic. Gluten intolerance is just basically I just can't tolerate it. Just like lactose intolerance, you said you have that as well. You just can't tolerate milk. So tolerance and having an allergy is different. You know, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of
sense. So you
sense.
can actually get a blood test to actually test if you have something called celiac disease, which is completely gluten allergy. But gluten intolerance is kind of hard is not able to test in a blood test. That is more basically on how you feel, and we do more with the counseling to find out, okay, well, this is the symptoms that you are having. Yes, you do have a gluten intolerance. I would not add it. I would not put it in your diet. Now, the only way that you can probably see for yourself is if you add a little bit back in, and if you're tolerating it, then you're okay. But if once you add it back in and you get the same symptoms back, then you definitely need to keep it out of your diet.
Okay. See, you mentioned something that I've been having a problem with is, and I honestly didn't even know this was a gluten thing, but it's the headaches. Like, all right, so I've been drinking coffee for so many years. Probably, I'm 21. I've been probably drinking coffee since I was like 14. I'm not proud of it either, but I just got to the point where the coffee was giving me anxiety. And that's another way that I found out about the gluten is, I kind of was like, tried the different creamers, got a gluten-free creamer, no more stomach pain when I drink coffee. So that was another key indicator that I was having a gluten intolerance. Oh yeah, and I got a lactose-free and a gluten-free creamer. So I was doing great. So I was throwing coffees down. But then I was just realizing I'm just always irritable. I have anxiety and I'm just always in the rush. I just gotta go. And I cut out soda and coffee, just cold turkey. I cut it out probably like 7 days ago. And the first 4 days, I had like headaches, and I looked them up, and yeah, and
caffeine withdrawal.
Yeah, I was having withdrawals, but it was exactly what I was reading. They were tension headaches. I felt like I had a headband. I felt like my neck was sore, like we had been doing the podcast for like 9 hours or something. Like I felt like sore in the neck, headaches, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of freaking out because I just had a really good friend of mine. He recently, unfortunately got diagnosed with brain cancer, and he's been having a
Oh,
lot of things go on. And so I was just kind of like, I was kind of freaking out. I was like, all right, well, I did cut something out of my diet, so let's not act crazy here. And then when I looked it up, I just didn't realize how much caffeine affects the body. Like, I didn't know that it restricts the blood flow in the brain and whatnot. But from a dietitian standpoint, what are some other things that are, common misconceptions about diet that cause headaches? Because the first 4 days were horrible. The fifth day was great. Yesterday, it was kind of on and off. Today, I've been feeling okay, but it just freaked me out. Like, it really freaked me out like, how instantaneous, but at the same time, how like sharp the pain was. Like, not sharp, but consistent. Like, it was right when I cut it out and it was going for days. So what are some things
yeah.
that a person can do, aka myself, to just kind of eliminate headaches through diet?
Eliminate headaches through diet.
Yeah, like,
I mean, your headache was caused by caffeine withdrawal. Did the headache go away?
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just what your body was going through. It's like caffeine is like a drug. We say like you were just going through the withdrawal period. Just like a lot of people who take out carbs from their diet, they start feeling like a kind of like a flu-like symptom because they've taken out something that their body was used to getting. So they kind of like feel sick for a little bit, and then their body gets used to breaking down. Oh, okay, I'm just going to use these fats now, so I'll feel better. Because the body's not used to not getting those carbs for energy. So you're going to feel a little bit down. You're going to feel a little bit like cranky and sick and things like that until you get whatever that body needs to break down to bring that energy back.
So from your standpoint, is caffeine something that like we can have in moderation? Because I cut it out completely
Yeah,
because I just
I
don't like.
think you can have it in moderation for sure. You can do half decaf calf in the morning. You don't have to do full calf. Um, if coffee is something you like to drink, yeah, I wouldn't cut it out completely.
So it's not
But I
negative.
wouldn't do, no, it's not a negative thing.
Okay.
And there are some studies that say coffee actually helps heart disease.
Wow. Okay.
But then again, people read something like that and they'll have 5 cups of coffee and be like, oh, I'm protecting myself against heart disease. So you
Yeah.
have to practice moderation.
Wow. So, I
And you
mean,
have to be careful of dehydration as well. I mean, you always felt anxious and it was probably mostly the caffeine, but you were also probably dehydrated because caffeine dehydrates you completely. But and if you're dehydrated, then your electrolytes are all off balance. So
wow.
yeah, so everything in moderation.
Okay.
Can't
So,
overdo stuff. Your body's not used to overdoing.
I can kind of start. Should I? Well, I've gone 7 days now. What would you recommend? Should I start to reincorporate it or should I just keep going? Because I do love coffee. It's honestly been painful cutting it out.
Yeah, I think you can have a cup in the morning. I don't see any harm. I just wouldn't have any more after that. If you've gone this 7 days without having it, I would say 1 cup a day, limit it.
Okay. So limit myself. Yeah. I was
Try
up to like
black tea or try
black tea.
green tea. Green tea is a good option as well.
Okay. So for a person who's been listening right now and they've been, just enjoying the conversation, but more importantly, enjoying being aware of, just everything that is involved in the intake of the body, and they want to become a dietitian, what are some of the steps that you would suggest to somebody who's trying to get into like a position like you, working for a great company like Wellstar, and who's a dietitian keeping people alive on ventilators?
So being a dietitian is different from getting a $40 nutrition certification degree online. There's a lot of hypes out there. There's a lot of tricks out there. People are getting degrees in nutrition and claiming themselves that they're a nutritionist when they're not. Registered dietitian, you are registered by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. You have to go to school. You have to get an undergrad degree in nutrition. After that, you apply for an internship program, which is usually between 9 to 12 months. And in that 9 to 12 months, you will do rotations in community nutrition, in hospital nutrition, in food service nutrition. It can be school nutrition. It can be in the hospital food service. And you will learn through those rotations, same like a doctor does rotations. Same thing. And you will learn through those rotations, and then you will take an exam, like a doctor takes an exam, same thing, board. Once you pass that exam, you can call yourself a registered dietitian. You're also given the title of a licensed dietitian in the state that you practice in. So, like if I'm practicing in Georgia, I need to make sure I'm licensed in the state of Georgia. If I move to New York, if I move to Florida, I need to have that LD, licensed dietitian, for that certain state. But being a registered is, once you take the exam, you're registered.
Wow. Jeez. Wow. And then you have people out here spending $40 trying to claim the same status.
I've seen a lot of stuff on my ads on my Instagram about $40 nutrition certifications. And
what?
It's really, it kind of makes our job harder. If we want to do kind of like private counseling, because there's so many outside sources that are giving the wrong information,
Yeah, because then you have people come into you and they're like, I spoke to a dietitian and he said, wow, that's crazy. So have you guys seen an increase recently with this coronavirus pandemic? Have you guys had a lot more people on ventilators, or has it just kind of been, have you been cruising?
Well, I'm just seeing what is what I see on the news. I actually luckily have been at home. I haven't gone to work, so I'm doing some work from home, and then so I've been just seeing on the news. Yeah, I mean, eventually they do need to be ventilated. I see a lot of dietitians post, fellow dietitians who are working in the ICU, and they do, have to deal with ventilated patients.
Jeez. Well, hey, I want to go ahead and thank you for the role that you play, because that's a crazy job to keep a person alive, literally. So thank you so much for that. And I guess just one more question I would have is just from a general standpoint, what are some of the main diseases, or well, not diseases, but illnesses that a person can cure through their diet? Because I know we mentioned anxiety, we mentioned headaches, but what are some of the other things that you get that a lot of people kind of generalize, but that are really just quick diet fixes?
Joint pain. I
Joint
think
pain.
joint pain is the big one that you can fix with what you're eating. I think that if you're talking about comorbidities like diabetes and heart disease and blood pressure, high blood pressure, hypertension, things like this, you can easily fix with a clean diet. I've seen people get off their meds because they've lost weight and they don't need them anymore.
Wow. I mean, that's the goal. That's the sad part. I mean, it should be the goal, but nowadays, I mean, it makes money to keep people on pills. It's sad.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, I really want to thank you so much for coming on and
Thank you for having me.
just sharing with us some knowledge that in this time can really be used. So
Yeah.
I just really do appreciate your time. I know we're all busy, but the fact that you are willing to sit down and speak to somebody and, hopefully just help one person, two people, whatever it is. If somebody can become self-aware that, okay, maybe I don't need to take a Tylenol every morning and destroy my liver. Maybe I can change my diet. Even if there's one person out there that gets something from this, it's all worth it. Because I mean, I'm that one person, but there's more people. So once again, just thank you so much. And yeah, we really do appreciate you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Sweet.